All right, all right. It says we are live. Hello, Gun Nation. How's everyone doing this evening? I do want to now. Some of y'all probably know him. He's been on the chat before, but it's been a while. This is Greg Slimp. He is well, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Greg. Go ahead and tell everybody hello,
Hey guys, it's Greg again.
and tell them what you do. I won't steal your thunder.
Nah, I'm the president of Threat Cadre. We're a training company, and with that, I also do a lot of R&D for Staccato.
Okay, and you're on their tactical shooting team,
Yeah, it's they consider it tactically, and all former military will be falling under the tactical team.
or I think you call it the green team to me sometimes, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they got the green and the blue. Blue is your law enforcement, with the green on the military side.
that makes sense. That makes sense. We're not going to do a major roll call. I do appreciate everybody being on here. We won't go through and do the major roll call because I put that video out yesterday. Greg was so gracious enough to let me shoot his. When he got his, it was a prototype, or basically it's that going to be that gun, but um, prototype mags. And Greg and I have been friends for how long have we known each other, Greg? 3 years?
3 or 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. What's really funny is we met on Instagram back when I used to do Instagram. That's how we met, started talking, and it just kind of flowed from there. We became friends and started, doing all that. And he lived in West Texas and moved to North Texas. So he's like 30 minutes from me. So we've been shooting several times, and doing things like this. He is the owner of, like you said, Threat Cadre, and I run his comps on my C2 and my Staccato P, and I absolutely love them. It has the nice cut, not the duckbill cut like some other comps. Um, Fit, finish, I mean, I just love those comps. They actually do what they're supposed to do. So if y'all need those, even in the other video I just put out, I haven't put a link in this one yet because it wouldn't let me, but in the SC video, his link is there. If you want to purchase anything, feel free to do that. Also, to subscribe to his YouTube channel because he shows. I mean, he's a really good shooter, and he shows quick drills. He shows all kinds of stuff, really short videos. So go over and please subscribe to Threat Cadre on YouTube. But so, kind of give us a little story on this. Tell us, like, I guess, how long it kind of took them to come up with this idea. Some of the inside stuff that you can talk about officially now that you couldn't before.
Well, this is the inside stuff that I can't talk about. We've been everything here that we've been running through with the C2 and even the P platform um, over the last 2 years, because C2's been out for about 2 years now. So this is actually corrected all the issues that we were seeing with C2. Um, everything from feeding, extraction, and to the biggest thing everyone is going to notice is we're running new magazines now. So they're going to be for the CS at 16 plus one. And that to me is a game changer. The reason being, if anyone's been running 2011 magazines, no matter which magazine, when you load around, drop your magazine, that top round will actually move forward on you. I've actually had the round actually fall out when I'm ejecting my magazine. With this new one, which is along the lines of think of a SIG 320 slash maybe a Beretta or a Shield Glock Shield magazine, and they're very robust. I have yet had that. That's actually a picture of my CS, and as of today, I've got a little bit over 12,000 rounds through it over the past month, and I've had zero issues.
Yeah, he has been running the dog crap out of that gun, and that's the gun that I shot in the video too. And what's crazy is he really didn't even clean it before. I mean, it wasn't filthy like it I've showed in the picture of the video where he had that barrel. That thing was like really caked up, but it was still running. But it wasn't completely clean when I ran it. I didn't have. I don't even know how many rounds. I looked in my bucket. That bucket was full and it holds like 250, and there was like a little handful at the bottom. So I probably put, hell, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred rounds or 150 rounds through it. Um, and it ran great for me. I didn't have any issues with it at all. Um, the thing I wanted to say about and of course, Greg kind of reiterated that too. It is about the size of a 43X. So I had a lot of questions when I put the video out of why is it needed? Why do you need that when they have the C2? Do you want to go into a little bit of that?
Well, the biggest issue is noticing is it's basically a C2. If you go over on YouTube, especially my channel, a lot of the other guys, we've got probably 6 to 10 of these floating around that we've been running. You'll see the difference. The biggest thing is we were looking for something that's slimmer for your actual EDC. And with that 3.5 inch barrel, slimmer grip, and we actually, if you notice on the picture, we went to external extractor. Everything on this, there's actually several that you can't see, but inside the pistol, this is just not a redeveloped 2011. This is basically a rebuilt from the ground up for duty use. There's several patent pending things inside the weapon platform. Even to the extent we broke it down, you'll see on, if you see the picture above me, you'll see the barrel hood chamfer. That was done for a reason. The barrel's actually fluted now, again, done for a reason. After we ran it, put it under lights, and you can see the hot spots on it, so we relieved that so it actually cools the barrel faster. I have yet to see any degradation. This pistol shoots just as good as a 5-inch pistol. I'm still getting good groups out to 50 to 100 yards with it for an actual micro.
Yeah, he did take it out to 50 yards. He's got a video on his channel, and of course, I didn't want to, I filmed it for him, but he took it out to 50 yards with 5 shots at the indoor range right there, and he put 5. I mean, they were like right here. So, I mean, we count them off on the video. You can check him out on his channel. Again, his channel is Threat Cadre. I was trying to put a link, and for some reason, StreamYard's not allowing it at this second. But even after this video plays, there will be a link below in the comments. But anyway, and some things I noticed about it compared to the C2, and I was trying to show, we were at the range and trying to show things, and I've got a comp and a light on mine and stuff. It's definitely shorter. I mean, it's probably, it seems like about that much shorter, but it's definitely skinnier in the grip, which I was showing. I have XXL hands. I did notice, if you're used to a C2 and it fits your hands well, this one is going to be smaller. I did notice, just a little bit when you go to put your support hand, your left hand in the little grip area. When I went in, when he said, okay, I can meet you, we can shoot it. I said, great. I already had in my head, I'm like, this thing's going to be too small. It's just not going to fit my hands right. I'm probably not going to be able to shoot it right. I had all of these things kind of already in my head from just seeing the picture and the perception of it. Well, that perception is not true. Now, it is smaller in the grip. The girth is smaller. However, I still shot it fine. And I could probably carry it fine. Didn't really see an issue with that. It is a totally new designed mag, so the C2 and your P mags and stuff will not fit this gun again. I've said that in the video, but people were still asking, so I guess they never got to that part of the video. But it is going to, like you said, it's going to be 16, plus 1. I don't know if they're going to have any extensions. Maybe somebody will if you want more, or maybe they'll even offer a bigger mag eventually. Who knows? But some things I did notice, and he's exactly right. On my C2 and my P, when I eject it, if I've got one chambered, so one's in the tube, and I drop the mag, the other one's already partially feeding out of the mag. And sometimes when you take the mag out, that top bullet will fall out onto the table or wherever, or it'll just kind of hang out the front. It just looks weird. So with this design, it stopped that. Not that the other one causes any failure. It's just when you eject it with one in the tube, that's what it does. But this one, and here's where I've heard that too. People say, oh, it shoots like a 5-inch gun. Well, that gun does not shoot like my MPA 5-inch all steel gun. It just doesn't. There's a weight difference. However, for gun to gun, like the C2 to the C, to the CS, I don't think there's a big difference as far as recoil and things like that. Grip a little bit, yes. Now the velocity on this one, it is a 3.5 barrel. Do you know? And I know the other one. What is the C2 like? 3.7
Three
or something?
three
3.8.
point nine.
3.9.
3.9.
Okay. So that's not going to be major velocity. However, and this was my thought, just sharing this. I don't know if they're going to do it, and Greg doesn't have to verify it. But if they ever come out with a threaded barrel version, that's going to give you, maybe another half-inch barrel, so to say. That could be a potential if they do that. If you're considering or worrying about velocity, um, but who knows? I mean, I thought it was fun to shoot it. I did see a lot of the changes that they've done within the gun. Um, I think it's for the better. Also, Greg pointed out a couple of things that I really didn't pick up on that could be affecting a left-handed shooter versus more so with the C and the P and things like that, that they've actually even corrected on this gun. I don't want to get into it. If he does, that's fine. But I mean, I really think they did their homework on this gun. Not that the other ones are bad, because I love all mine, but this gun's different. It's just a different option. And when people are like, oh, they've got the C2, you don't need this. Well, why not have another option for someone else? There's nothing wrong with options. That's the way I look at it.
No, exactly right. If you look up here, you'll see where the slide stop comes through. We've actually flush cut that and recessed it. Especially if you're left-handed, if your thumb's forward. Even when I've shot left-handed, I've noticed under recoil, if I put my thumb against it with pressure, it'll actually push it in, which could provide issues with a lockup on it.
Yeah, and I thought that was very interesting because it's never happened to me. But after Greg showing that to me, and even using my C2 that I had on the table, he's like, watch this, And I mean, if I go to the left hand, I was just like, oh, hell yeah. You just push the thing right out. While it's shooting, I mean, you can potentially, but I never have. But I do think that that's really cool that they took care of that too. Just thinking of the what if. But, and another thing, and I've said this in the video, but apparently a lot of people didn't get to it. And I'll let Greg say it. I said it in the video, but what light is designed to fit this gun?
It's going to be the Streamlight TLR7 sub.
Okay.
Your TLR7 alphas will not work because at the bottom of the slide where the channel is, that's where the screw for the TLR7 will actually go in. So the 7 sub with the 1913, because I know the subs have your Glocks, you have your Hellcats, you have all that, but with the 1913 will made up perfectly with it.
Yeah.
I believe there's one of the Streamlights, and I don't know, not Streamlight, excuse me, Surefire.
Yeah, the smaller one.
I believe we've actually updated the website to reflect those as well.
Okay. Yeah, and then you'll notice also on Greg's CES here, the Delta Point Pro, and I don't know if y'all know this, on the Staccatos, the Delta Point Pro will actually direct attach to the gun, so you don't even have to have a plate. So this is a direct hookup, so to say, without a plate. So all of the Staccatos will take a Delta Point Pro without a plate. The only thing you'll have to be concerned with is if you have the tactical suppressor sights, they're taller, and then the carry ones are shorter. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you're going to run a plate, you want the tactical sights because they're taller. But that's really the only difference. And another thing, I guess I showed it in the video, but there's something else on this one that eventually is going to be coming, but I won't even say what it is. I think I kind of let it out of the bag in the video, but
no, I mean, we could talk about it.
Okay.
It's you can actually see that's a stock flat trigger that's going to be an option when you purchase the CS. So even with their standard is now aluminum. This is going to be aluminum flat trigger.
Because that was one of my bitches. If you'll remember way back when with the Staccato, I'm like, you're buying a $30,000 or $3,000 or $3,500 gun and you're getting a polymer trigger. I'm like, they could have at least made it an aluminum trigger. And now they listened, and that's what they're going to offer, aluminum triggers going forward, or on this model. I don't know about all of them. But That's something else. And that flat trigger, I will tell you, and y'all all know this, I hate curved triggers because of my long fingers. And Greg saw that. I mean, on a curved trigger, my finger pokes way the hell out of the side, and I kind of pull it weird. So that's why I prefer the flatter triggers and at least the medium length triggers. And this one was fine. I had no problem with it. Actually, the trigger is very nice in this model. Because of the flat trigger, it just helps me specifically. Other people won't ever notice it, but I did enjoy that also.
You
The
didn't have
thing,
any.
go ahead. I'm
You
sorry.
didn't have any issue with your grip safety on that CS either, did you?
No, I did not. I said in the
Well,
video with the angle of this grip, and that's something else. It's still a 2011 grip. It's just the way they designed this. It's tilted a little farther back, probably because of the mag design too. But this is one that I could shoot where I didn't have to pin the safety at all. And Greg knows this. I've shot some of his guns without freaking pin safeties, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh shit, the grip safety. I'm just so used to mine being pinned. Um, this one I had no problem with because it hit my hand just perfectly. So that's another thing. And I've got, big hands. So if you have that problem, this one's probably going to work better for you, where the C2 doesn't for me without pinning it. So all of mine are pinned. My C2 and my P, I just pin the grip safety, but you still have your manual safety, and it's very positive. It worked perfect. I showed in the video. I still used it as a shelf when I shot. I mean, it's the same as your C2s, your Ps, your XCs, all that. Very positive on the on and off. But and Pistol Pete's asking this question. I know the answer, but will they be offering a direct fit for the RMR without a plate?
no.
Yeah.
But the issue is the width of it. That's why even with your standard 1911s, majority of all your 1911s, they have to go to the Trigicon plate when they mount that to it. But I mean, anything's possible if there's some way even with the smaller, the RMCC, I guess, RMRCC. But to my knowledge, and we're keeping with the DPP, because initially that came out with I believe one of our first contracts and still is with the U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group, and that's one of the specifications that they wanted was the DPP.
Yeah. And one thing that I was telling Greg after I shot it, I said the gun seems like a mini C to me. It might not to a lot of people when they hold it actually in their hand, but it seems like a Glock 43X was pretty much the exact size of that gun, where the C2 is kind of a Glock 19. So if you want to kind of have an idea in your head, but I was telling Greg, I said, I bet you people who buy this will probably get the micro plate from Staccato and probably run like a 507K or, some of the smaller optics, just because it's like a smaller gun. And you wouldn't have any really overhang on the rail. The DPP is not bad, and I don't know what an RMR would look like on it. It might have some overhang too, but I just think a lot of people that get this gun probably will run a lot of the micro options in optics, is what I was thinking. Richard is asking proprietary trigger.
No, it's not.
No, Greg and I both run Atlas in a lot of our other triggers prior to them coming out with this new flat face trigger. But that's what we prefer, the Atlas triggers over the stock curved Staccato trigger. So that's what I think you have all Atlas triggers, don't you? You were probably one of the first ones to start running Atlas triggers and Staccatos, weren't you?
I believe I was. And then it took off on the gram.
Yeah.
Everyone to know where it was, and then everybody's got them.
Yeah.
But no, it's I like flat trigger. No matter where I place my finger, it's the same. I just like the feel of flat better. But I've run all of my 1911s. I've always run flat triggers on them as well.
Now, a question for you, and I get asked this all the time because I love flat triggers on pistols too. Okay, flat triggers on pistols, but what about for your ARs or your rifles? Flat. Yep.
I've got a flat on mine as well.
Yep. Same here. I love flat triggers. I can take a slight curve, but when you have the real crazy curve,
Mm-hmm.
like on some of the other option of pistols and other rifles, it's just like mil spec. That type of curve. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can shoot them. I just don't prefer them.
Oh, it's. I mean, I was issued them. I ran them for years. But when you have your options, there's always things better.
That's what I was going to
Um,
say. Back in your day, it was because the government told you.
yeah.
Now it's you can check. You can pick what
Now I
you
can do
want.
what I want.
Yeah, you got the 31 flavors. It wasn't the cheapest bidder. Now it's you can do what the heck you want to do. But yeah, there's I think this is going to give people, like I said, I think this is going to be geared towards maybe smaller handed men, uh, you know, regular handed women, or even big handed guys that want a little thinness rather than a chunkier grip. So I think it's going to sell. I know it's going to sell. Matter of fact, I've already got 3 people, and y'all probably know who they are. They want this gun bad, for content and also, probably to carry and play with and stuff like that. So when do you think, and I don't know, I'm not trying to, have you say this is the date, but when do you think these are officially going to be like out in the FFLs or sent to the FFLs, if you can say that?
The last I heard, and I believe this is what we were talking about when we was down this past weekend for the at Staccato Ranch for the event, they're shooting for mid-December.
Okay.
Now that's again, this is November, mid-December. It could change, but that was the last thing I heard was mid-December.
So maybe some people, Santa Claus will drop these off under the tree for some people, and that would be a good thing. Um, Professor Weekender is asking, is the ignition system the same as any Staccato, or is it totally different?
Now ignition system's same
Okay.
same sear spring. Everything else is the 2011, 1911 as far as the internals to that.
Yeah. And when I saw it, from looking on the inside of it when we pulled it down, or he pulled it down, I could see it looked standard to me, but I didn't know for
Yep.
positive sure. So that's a good thing. Not that there's any problems with them. I've never had a problem with my ignition system in one of these. And that's another thing. You're not getting any kind of MIM parts or anything like that. You're not running into any of the metal injection molded parts, with Staccato. You're getting the real deal. And I get all kinds of people like, you can save $1,000 and buy a Bull, or you can save $2,000 and buy a Prodigy, and that's cool if that's what you want and stuff like that. But for, if you really took them down and looked at all the internal parts and everything, there's a huge difference. A lot of people don't know that because they don't understand what they're getting as far as the internals. But there's a difference between a budget type gun, because they have to price it as a budget type gun and they can't put a bunch of forged and billet parts in it. So, you do have to sacrifice some things. But, I was actually very impressed with it for what I was shooting it. I was like, wow, now for me to say, does it shoot like a 5-inch all steel gun? No. But is it crazy? I've shot smaller 9mm. I'll tell you this. I'll put it this way. Shooting a Glock 43 or a 43X, this has less recoil than those guns to me. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Oh, I agree. See, what's deceiving about this is the shorter slide. And I've shot the C2s. I've shot every offering that we have. I feel that the CS actually has less felt recoil than the C2 does due to the less mass on the slide that's reciprocating on each shot.
Yeah.
And extremely controllable. Doing pairs, hammers, whatever you want to call them, even a bill drill. I mean, it's extremely controllable.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I said too. When I was shooting it, I could tell the reciprocation on it was different. I even said that in the video. And I mentioned that to Greg too. I said the reciprocation's different, because it's shorter slide, less metal. They're doing a lot of lightning cuts or lowering, the weight and stuff on it, because hell, it's only 23 ounces without the optics, so it's a pretty damn light gun. And it is aluminum with the polymer grip, if anybody's asking. Of course, stainless steel slide and stuff. But you can feel. I mean, like when I was holding it, I was like, wow, this thing's pretty light. My C2 is what, 26 ounces? Not a huge difference, but
Yeah, it's about
of course,
25, 25 and some change is what a
Yeah.
C2. The actual C, the single stack is actually 26 ounces. So it weighed more than the C2 and weighs more than the CS.
Yeah. And do you want to, I'll let you say it. Do you want to say anything about the C model?
I believe it's already been out that it's supposed to be, it's being discontinued
Okay.
just for the sales standpoint. Everyone's wanting the double stack. And here you basically have a C to an extent, actually a smaller length C, but with double ammunition.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I did say this in the video, but I will let Mr. Greggs, sorry if it's been asked, but does it fit in the same C2 holster?
Yes, I'm running mine in the C2 10 core. So
Okay.
that's what I'm currently running mine in.
And, like if you've got now here's where there could be a difference, just so you're aware. If you put a TLR 7 sub on it, the light is different. The sub is different than the 7A. So if you have a holster for a 7A for your Staccato and then you put the sub on this, there will be a difference. But if you run no light and you have a C2 non-light bearing holster, this one should go right in there without a light. But yeah, Brian is asking, love to hear Greg's thoughts on Springfield's entry to compete with them. So he's asking about the Springfield Prodigy. Do you have any opinion, or have you shot one or played with one?
I've played around with some. I mean, initially it's one of those, if I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I mean, it is what it is. It was their entry for to compete with Staccatos and others. But the issue you got to look at for the money, by the time I actually replaced all the men's parts, had a trigger job done on it, had everything reliable with it, I'm actually right back with the stock Staccato. So
Yeah.
they're actually going after the consumer that is not going to actually shoot a lot, and maybe a weekend shooter a couple times a week or a couple times a month or even a couple times a year, and they should be happy with it.
Yeah. You
But
can go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, but with the what you're getting with Staccato is going to be a duty rated weapon,
Yeah.
or one of the EDC. I mean, I've retired my C2s now. After I put probably about 6,000 rounds through it with zero issues. And in that 6,000 rounds, I've ran 115, 124, 135, 147, the HST hollow point, or HST, the hollow points. I've run flat nose 147s in it. I've had zero issues out of any of them.
Yeah, and you also ran plus P in it when
Yes.
I was with you. Yeah, plus P. So it will handle plus P rounds. It's here's where I could also see it coming into play. If you want like an executive type gun, and what I mean with, and of course any Staccato or any 2011, good 2011 will work with that. But kind of wearing a suit, having this appendix or at the 3 o'clock, and I mean, it kind of fits that, when I was playing with it, I was like, okay, and you could do that with any Staccato or whatever, but it kind of reminded me, I mean, the only way I can truly describe it is a mini C2, not like, teeny tiny, but it's just a smaller C2, a skinnier C2. Oh, and I know what it stands for, but what does the CS stand for?
It's going to be like the C Slim.
Yeah, compact slim. So, and
but it's basically,
go ahead.
If you guys have been running the Glock 43X, it's basically identical to the Glock 43 or Glock 43X in size, slide length, barrel length. It's going to be a 43X.
But it's 16+1.
Yes.
So, and that's with the factory mag. Now, do you have any idea approximately? Because a lot of my subscribers and things like that, when they buy a gun, they don't just have 2 or 3 mags. They buy additional mags to have more. Do you have any idea how much the mags themselves are going to run? Okay.
I haven't even looked at that.
Okay. And it is going to come with 3 mags from what I understand. Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well. I believe they've had that on their website as well.
Yeah. So in case anybody's wondering. So,
Yeah, we
But
actually, I believe they broke the website last Thursday when we announced this. Everyone was trying to
yeah,
order, so the website actually crashed. So
yeah,
it's up and running now.
yeah. And I know that gun stores have already ordered them and stuff like that, or placing their orders for them. But when they're going to arrive, again, we don't know. So just in case anybody's tuning in and thinking they can run to the gun store and pick up one now, no, not yet. Trying to think if there's anything else that I kind of noticed on it, or put it this way, you've got the XC, you've got, I mean, hell, you've got all of them. And I know you said you've pretty much retired your C2s to this. What is your, like, if you were going to compare it to a C2, you personally, because I did in the video, and I carry the C2, I know you did too before, but if you were going to compare it to the C2 versus the CS, what right off the bat is the reason you've changed to the CS? Other than, you've already proven its reliability, but other than that.
It's more compact. It's easier to carry if you carry appendix, of course. It's that, and then I'm all about feel. So I like the way the slide reciprocates. I like the way the weapon feels in my hand. Um, I like the shorter barrels too because I've shot long guns for years, so it could be just me, but it may have something to do with harmonics because I've always got great service and accuracy out of the smaller weapons.
Okay. As far as relating that to Glock, I've had the Glock 17, I've had the Glock 34, I've had the Glock, what was the 40 version of that? I've got the 17L,
22.
19X, all of those. It's funny on the Glock platform, the 19X, which is the 4-inch slide, longer grip, is my preference. I mean, if I have to pick one as far as shooting it, I can shoot the 17L well, but it, like you said, with the harmonics, it has that reciprocation. It's just different. So, but for the reciprocation, I guess now, of course, mine's got the comp and the light on it and stuff like that. I noticed this one is a faster reciprocation, but I can control the C2 and I can control this one, fine. So it's just really what you want. And once they're available in stores, if people are like, I don't want to order one until I put my hands on it, it's just another option. It's like 31 flavors. There's going to be people who still might want the CS or, want the C2 or might want the CS. And I think this is going to be great to give those people options, And I do like the grip, the stippling type, the factory stippling. I do like it a lot better than my C2, it has that crosshair, kind of their 2021 grip or whatever.
Yeah, the Gen 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like this, what they've done with this and on some of the newer Ps and stuff. But on the C2, even when I got the second C2, this aggressiveness wasn't even available for the C2s yet. I don't know if that's changed here recently, but the last I heard, it wasn't even available on the C2s yet. So I don't know. And this is actually a great question. The CS, the new mag, and I don't see how they could, but will this CS mag be the new standard for all staccatos going forward? Like, will they do away with the 2011 style?
I don't see that happening just because we've got so many contracts. We have so many of those. It's going to be an option. It's just like the ODS grip. You could choose what grip you want type deal. When C2 came out, and now you can actually purchase the ODS grips to put on the Ps if you'd like. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. But that's not going to be a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, everything I ran through it, the mags were super reliable. I never had one problem with them. The gun was super reliable. Didn't have any problem. And again, how many total rounds, that gun I shot yesterday, how many total rounds are through that gun now? Over 14,000?
No, I believe I'm pushing about 12.8 right now, close to 13.
Okay. I mean, and you know what? That was another thing. Most people will never run their guns that high. I don't think I have a pistol that has 12. Well, no, I don't think I have a pistol that has 12,000 rounds. I know at least 10, but that's the thing. The gun I shot, I was even checking for play. I was checking for, hey, is it loosened up? Is it sloppy? I was really trying to crank on it to see if I could get any play out of it. And after, 12, 14,000 rounds or whatever, there's no play in it. So that I thought that was really, really good too. I've had some other brand 1911s, which are, basic made, manufactured, not custom, but they get sloppy over time. But this one hadn't yet. So, well, that's actually a pretty interesting question. Do you think this CS grip would fit on a C2 in case somebody wanted to change their own?
I don't know. I actually haven't tried it. That may be something I'll take mine off and throw it over on
Yeah,
there.
that would be pretty interesting, because I did notice, and like I told Greg and I said in the video, I do notice a different type of angle. It just, feels different in my hand. Um, Not that it's bad or good, it's just different. So that would be pretty neat to see, like I
I
doubt
would
they'll
like
just,
it. I would like it personally, just because I like this grip better than I do the ODS on the
yeah,
C2. I
yeah. I
like it a
mean,
lot better.
that could be, that would be kind of cool if you could just take your C2 and, put this new CS grip on it and run the new style mags. I mean, that'd be an option. The only thing is, right now you can run the 20s, even the big stick, in your C2 if you wanted to. And of course you can't in the CS yet, but if they came out with longer mags for the CS, then that would definitely be an option too. But, also, and I hate talking about price, but I will definitely let you, what is the CS going to run?
It's on the website. If I'm not mistaken, it's $24.99 or
Yeah, it said 2,500, I believe.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
So, and it's already coming optic ready. So, you just now, depending on the optic you put on it, you would have to purchase a plate, but depending on which one you want. And we don't know the cost on the mags if that gets brought up again yet. But, ooh, this is really, I didn't see this, Lake Ozark. Any hopes for a trade in program for the original C if you purchase a CS?
That not to my knowledge.
Yeah,
It's just
I wouldn't see that happening.
no. I don't see that. I mean, it's going to be one of those that, especially if they're discontinued, there's a lot of people that's still going to be wanting them,
Yeah, I was
especially
going
in
to
the
say,
states.
knowing this, if you have a C and you want to get rid of it, it could be, you could have two versions here. Now might be the time to sell it, or wait. And I have a feeling, though, it's probably going to be the opposite. If you were going to wait to sell it like as a collector item, since they don't make it anymore, I don't think that's going to happen because everybody's going to want the CS or the C2. So if you've got the option to sell it now, you might consider selling it. So, but it is what it is. What it is. Um, and that is, like I said, I kind of was, had the offer to shoot it, and I was like, been wanting to shoot it, been wanting to try it, but I had this perception, it's just going to be too small, the grip's not going to fit my big hands, blah blah blah, and I'll tell you, because I had the thought of the 365 running through my head, not the macro, but the other one, oh, it's going to be like the XL grip, it'll just be too small, it just won't fit my hand, because pictures don't do it justice. But after I shot it, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, again, the C2 grip is more girthy, and I think it fits a huge hand, probably a tad better. But I could get, you can see I've got the length, but it's right there at the end where the C2 gives me a little more length. But just because of the way the angle is, I believe. But, it shot great. I think they're going to sell a lot of them. And, I say if that's what you're looking for, it's going to be popular. It's just, I wonder if they can keep up, especially for the initial order. I wonder if they can keep up the demand that they're going to have, because I think there's going to be a demand. Brian, and he did it earlier, but if you want to, any chance Greg could give his background, because you haven't gone deep into your background. You can go as deep as you want. What have you done? Yeah, go ahead.
U.S. Army. Got out of the Army, went to work for the government. Was recruited from the government to go back overseas just after 9/11, and then went back overseas and spent the next 12 years overseas. And then I started my training company in around 2016. to train military, law enforcement, and civilians.
Yeah. And I have shot with Greg. He's a good shooter. He knows definitely what he's doing. Now I haven't shot any ARs with him yet. Hopefully we can do that soon. But I've shot pistols with him. He's let me shoot his. I'll let him shoot mine. Oh, also I wanted to ask this because I always have people that ask, but they kind of only get my opinion. But I'll let you shoot my MPA, 2011. I know this is a Staccato chat, but I'll let you shoot the MPA DS9 hybrid, the big one.
Mm-hmm.
What was your opinion on it? I mean,
I was impressed with it. I mean, it tracked smooth. I mean, the weight of it was well balanced. Trigger was smooth on it. I was actually impressed with it, especially for the price they're coming out with them. You can't beat them.
And I was going to say, he shot it very well. It's definitely a tack driver. And, the day that yesterday when I was shooting his CS, he was kind of sighting or making sure, checking the zero and everything on his XC, because you had put the SRO on your XC, didn't you? Mm-hmm. That was, I thought that's what was on it. We've got a lot of people that are thinking, maybe not a carry gun. They don't want a 2011 for carry, but they might want, a bigger gun for shooting. So I've shot tons of XCs. I've shot, I got probably 6,000 rounds or more through my P with your comp. But what is your opinion of the XC and your opinion of the P? Because people might want to know that.
Okay. The P is purely duty. It's accurate, reliable. XC, nothing taken against the XC. Now, if you're going to look for like a home defense or carry it for duty, I highly recommend change out the recoil spring. I believe they're shipping with 8-pound recoil springs to get that little flatness. And you see all these guys air racking and all this with them. Mm-hmm. But for a duty standpoint, I'd stay around 10-pound, 11-pound guide or recoil spring, and they function smoothly. The issue you run into, sir?
You're saying on the XC, correct?
On the XC, yes.
Okay.
The reason is a lot of guys, especially if it's tackle, home defense, if you're going to shoot with gloves, or if you shoot a high thumbs because you came from a polymer background, with that 7-pound, 8-pound recoil spring, if your thumb drags it, you're going to start creating malfunctions with it. But with the 10-pounder, it's got enough ass to actually feed the round with it.
Yeah, and let's raise our hand for everybody that stopped an XC slide with their thumb.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
But with the P, going back on the P, I've got the steel frame and aluminum frame P, and I love the aluminum frame. But a good friend of mine was at the competition this weekend and made it to the Sweet 16, which will be going to Vegas. And you had all these competitive shooters shooting these competition pistols. And he was shooting an aluminum frame stock P.
Yeah. And I've shot the steel P, and I own the aluminum P, and I prefer the aluminum P because it's 5 ounces lighter. But I will say this, and this is honest truth. My aluminum P with your comp is as flat as the XC, and it is how much cheaper? I mean, you're talking $4,300 for the XC, the $4,300 plus tax and your plate. And my aluminum P was threaded barrel, of course, was, I don't know, like 2,600 or something at that time.
There, yeah.
And then, your comps, what are your comps running now? $200?
Anodized, I believe it's $189.
Yeah, I thought it was like 180 or 190 in the shipping, probably $200. So you can get a P, threaded P, and a comp. And I'm telling you, I've shot them side by side, and I'm just like, I mean, I love his comps, and I'm not trying to push. I just believe in great products that work. And as far as cleaning them, that's another thing. I've got a shitload of rounds through his comp. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to carbon up and it's going to do this. It doesn't. I mean, no. I haven't even cleaned mine after 6,000 rounds. I mean, as far as the comp inside, picking it all out, I just don't have any problem with it. So
I just soaked mine. I've got some that had 12, 13,000 rounds through it. I just soaked it in carbon cleaner. And then once it broke it up, then I cleaned it right out.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just look to make sure there's nothing blocking it. But I've never had any problems with it. Shoots really good. Yeah, and professional weekender. Let's see what you think about this comment, Greg. The XC is all about showing off to your buddies.
Yeah.
The XC is a phenomenal gun. I'm not taking anything away from
Yes,
that
it
gun.
is.
I really love the island, the island barrel. I mean, I really do like that. The sight blocker, sight tracker. If you're shooting irons, but if you're shooting dots, it is what it is. But, um, and actually Chris was in there shooting the CS, Chris from Texas Gun Experience, and I was in his advanced pistol class. And when I took the class, I brought two guns. I brought the Staccato P with the Threat Cadre comp and had it in my duty holster, or the battle belt holster. And then I took my CZ P10F, and I was like, well, I'll run the first part of it, with the P with the comp. And we were drawing, and I think we were like 7 yards or something. No, it was 5 yards, and we had to draw quick, put 5 on the target, and then go back in. And I was just like, boom, pop, 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 and then loaded it. And Chris was teaching the class. Greg met him yesterday, and we were talking about this story. And Chris was just watching that Staccato with that comp, and he's like, he just goes, Johnson, that thing does not move. He's like, it's flat as shit. And he goes, that's freaking cheating. You're shooting this in advanced pistol class with these other guys. And I was like, I know. I mean, it was just a stupid group with 5 rounds. And he's just like, so I was like, I just, goof it around. So I put it up and took the advanced pistol class with the Staccato P10F. But, they're great guns. I really love them. Everybody knows I totally admit it. I had the one issue with my C2 that the frame warped, but it goes back to I notified Staccato, sent it in. I got a brand new gun, brand new C2. I mean, no questions asked. They took care of it, not because I do YouTube, none of that. The lifetime warranty is legit. So they took care of it real well. So did not have any problems with that. So, and the new C2 has it's probably I know I have a book where I keep all of it in it. I know it's 3,500 rounds at least right now. So it's got a ton of rounds through it, but so far, knock on wood, it's great. And I always get asked this question. If you have a person who says, you know what, I've always shot Glocks or CZs or other polymer guns, why should, in your opinion, and you're a trainer and you see this, you've proven it to people in classes because you've let them shoot your guns, why should someone go from a polymer gun into a 2011? What would you say to that answer, or what answer would you give?
Are we talking about just shooting in general, or for
like if they're I guess I should rephrase it, if they're like 2011 curious, like why should I go away from polymer proven guns, or maybe even not go away from them, but why should I buy a 2011 and spend all that extra money when I already have something that will shoot?
Well, because it's going to allow you to shoot. The average shooter is going to shoot better immediately. Yep. Just because of the trigger, just the way it feels, just the setup. They're just going to shoot better. And I proved it to classes. I have students come through shooting Glocks or some other polymer weapon and can't get a solid group. I immediately give them one of my Staccatos, and the group shrinks in half, if not by 3/4, just by the platform itself.
Yeah. And I'll say the exact same thing. And I've got buddies who are Glock, that I shot with, and, they'll shoot we'll be side by side at Texas Gun Experience. I'll take them up there and we'll shoot together, and they're shooting Glocks or whatever, and they're shooting them good. I'm not saying they're shooting them bad, but he's like, oh, look, this is one of my better groups. And I'm like, hey, that is a nice group. However, let's put a new target up and just try this, like the C2, same size as his Glock 19. He tries it, and then his group went from that to that, and he's like, holy shit, and it's people. I get this statement all the time, I could buy 8 Glocks for the price of that gun, or I could buy 2 Glocks and 4,000 rounds of ammo or whatever. We've all heard the stories, but I always say, do not knock it. Don't be a hater. Just try other guns. Not saying there's anything wrong with Glocks or M&Ps or anything else, but just don't be afraid to try something that you've never experienced. Don't knock it till you know. And it still might not work for you, but if you don't try it, you don't know. But in your classes that you've had people experience, and like you were saying, their groups get instantly smaller. And we were talking about this yesterday. Rapid shots. You just draw a gun and just as long as you've got a good grip and a pretty decent point and everything else. I think they're more accurate than a lot of those guns because you're going to have more movement. Even if you're dealing with an alloy, it's going to be it's going to be lighter than a steel, but it's going to be heavier than a polymer. Right. But I think it's the trigger, the sights, or the optic. If you're using an optic, but I think also the way that they fit your hand. The human hand, and I know you and I have talked about this. Do you think the human hand is set up better for a 1911 for point of aim, point of impact, or a Glock?
John Moses Browning, when he designed the 1911, built it around a boxer's punch, which is more straight up and down. The Glock, when they come around with that, was more of a martial arts type hand forward or thumb forward like this is where the grip angle came from. And that's something I noticed someone made a comment about what I thought about the external and internal extractors. A lot of people don't know, but the number 2 after the 1911 was designed and released, the next pistol up was the Browning High Power, and it had a external. And I like the externals. I've had more issues out of internals with having to set them and adjust them,
tuning them.
But I've never had an issue out of. I mean, look at your Glocks, look at your SIGs, look at all these other weapons that's always had an external, and there's never been an issue with it.
Yep, I've tuned them. You have to take them out, and you can get a tuning a tuning bar that you bend them with. But I've taken them out. I've put them. You can look at the way it needs to be tuned sometimes. I've put the edge of it in a vise and, tapped it with a hammer. And, I've tuned a lot of 1911s. Not that I'm the gunsmith, but I learned from gunsmiths how to do it. And it can be a pain in the ass. You can definitely have some problems with them. Now, how long have you been with the Staccato tactical team?
2000 into 2019. So going on, 2-3 years?
And I've seen your video, and other people can go watch this on the Staccato website, where they're actually they're interviewing Greg and talking about, going back or what he had done before and then going to Staccatos. But a lot of people don't know this, but what was your preferred gun before Staccato, or what did you shoot the most of?
I ran Glocks for years. I carried a Glock overseas. And
now, was that your choice or because they gave it to you?
That's what I was issued overseas.
Okay.
And then even when I got here in the States, now when we were issued Springfield 1911 professionals with the government at one time, but we had Glocks too, and especially downrange, I carried Glock. I was just comfortable with it. That's why I've always liked about the C2 as well, is because the sight radius, it feels comfortable.
Yep. Now you're a big dot shooter. I think I'm even older than you, but my eyes aren't perfect by any means. They're actually not. They're pretty bad. But if you had someone, because I get asked this question all the time, since you've shot irons and dots, what would be your answer? And you teach a training class, and everybody, I'm sure you had this question 1,000 times, if not more. But what would make an iron, or like, what would you tell an iron shooter or suggest to an iron shooter why they should go, or why not that they should go to a dot?
Well, first of all, dots on pistols is here to stay. I mean, it's just like back in the day, even when I was in the military, we didn't even have the red dots on them then. So we ran irons. And of course the dots took over. Now someone who doesn't want a dot on a pistol, but I can almost guarantee they have a optic on a rifle that they have in their house.
Yep.
Now, I was the same way. We tested when I was with the feds. We tested pistol optics back in the early 2000s, and I hated them. They just weren't reliable. Technology wasn't caught up. Even up till probably 2015 is when I started. The dots started coming back, and I started giving them a chance because I used to run fiber optics, and I'd balloon up the fiber optic. So I basically had a red dot, but it was still irons. So I was comfortable with that as well.
Okay.
But with red dots, especially the eyesights, I mean, it's every one of mine. I've got maybe 2 that still have irons, and that's the only reason I do. If I teach an irons only class, I'll run irons only, so I stay proficient with both of them. But all my others are dots. I mean, I don't even want to shoot iron sights anymore.
And what is the reason, or what is your reasoning, or what do you find better about a dot other than, eyesight? But what do you find realistically better to shoot a dot, or why you should do it?
For a self-defense situation, it's going to be target focus versus front sight focus. So now you have your situational awareness. And then during your presentation, your dot's going to appear, and then you don't have to concentrate on that front sight and lose everything in the battle space that's going around you.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I said, you're not focusing on this, you're able to see everything. And that's what I noticed as far as speed, transition, moving it back and forth. And, not that I'm a tactical guy, because I'm not, but it just seems much faster for me, target focused, have all my peripheral vision. I mean, it just seems, it's kind of like, honestly, since I've really, really been dot or hard on, only dots for a couple of years, when I go back to irons, I'm just like, why? I mean, I can do it, but it's like, why? And with my, vision, it's like, I don't get the front sight focus like I used to when I had better eyes, of course. But I would honestly say, and I hate the word because everybody uses it, but to me, it's honestly been game changing, having dots on my pistols. And just like you said, and I've used this analogy before, back in the day when I shot ARs, we only had offsets, or we had regular flip up, iron sights, even for AR-15s, and people would buy dots. And, and that's the thing. When people buy pistols, I would be like, well, I bet you have a dot on your AR-15. And they're like, oh, hell yeah. And I'm like, but you don't want a dot on your pistol? And everybody's like, oh, I got to go farther. Well, I mean, yeah, you could be at 3 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, can you see perfectly? Or would you like some assistance with a pistol shot? Yeah, hell, I would. So, but anything else as far as, your training and stuff? If anybody, and of course, y'all can check out the CS video. All of his information's in there. And after this video, I will put his information. It wouldn't let me do it before. I don't know why. YouTube's being difficult, but I'll make sure if you're watching the replay, or if you come back later, I'll have all of his information in there for his website. Now, on your website, real quick, what all do you offer for sale on your website?
Right now, we got targets I've designed. I've got targets up. I've got the comps. I believe I've got the conversion plates, but I'm currently on back order on the conversion plates.
And what he means by that is Safariland plates. He's got an adapter that will adjust to your Safariland holsters.
Well, it's what it's going to do is adjust your Blackhawk. I run the Blackhawk T series because it was designed and developed specifically for the Staccatos at the time. And I run the level 3, and it's probably the fastest. I love the Blackhawk, but I didn't like the way they attached. I always liked Safariland. And so I created a design so I could put the fork on the Blackhawk.
Yeah. And his targets, he actually makes targets with the Cadre, where the triangle, and you've got 2 versions of those targets, which I think is kind of cool. And at first, I was like, 2 versions, but explain your 2 versions of sight that you offer, or target that you can shoot.
Initial version 1 is going to be the anatomically correct for a actual human. I didn't when I come back from downrange and started teaching civilians, um, I wanted a target that would allow me to show them the effectiveness of their shot placement. And at the time, there was nothing, and I still don't know if there's anything like that. I believe they're starting to come on now. You had your skeletal structures. To me, skeletons don't bleed, so I wanted to know where it was. So it's basically an assessment. So you have a media assessment, and then the version 2 is an overlay. So what you would do is how I use it for training is place the overlay in front of it. It has no markings. It just looks like a human in a long sleeve shirt. And at that point, you can actually engage the threat. And then once you're done, walk up, pick up the overlay, and then you can actually score your rounds.
Yeah.
Law enforcement's loving them because, again, it's easier assessment. It's cheaper than wasting ammo, wasting rounds, so you know immediately what your effectiveness is.
And then he has drills also where you have the triangles, and one is designed for one thing and the other one is not designed for another thing. Talk about those real quick.
Well, a lot of them's going to be, you can, I do a lot of transitions with them. They're 1-inch triangles, 4 of them on the left side. You got a 3-inch on the right side. So you can actually do a lot of transitions with them. You sight in your weapon system. I do shoot weak hand or support hand. It's still weak hand to me because I'm that old. But it's you can do a lot of different things with them. So with one target, you can get a lot of drills in with it.
And you have a version for irons and you have a version for dots.
Yes, I have the version when I was teaching a group downrange. I'll put it that way. They're shooting AKs and shooting pistols, so it was kind of hard for me to get them to understand front sight focus. So in theory, what I ended up doing was creating a target that was blurry, so it allowed your eye to pick up the front sight immediately versus going back and forth, since the eye is not a camera. So it always wants to see the biggest thing and you're fighting with it. So it trains your eye to actually pick up your front sight quicker.
Yeah. And where I was going with that, when I first looked at his targets, I was like, Greg, those are blurry, and he's like, yeah, now look at it with an iron. And it says iron sight, but I didn't see it on there. And then I looked through my an iron sight and I was like, oh shit, okay, I get it now. And then of course with your dot, it's not blurry. For the one for dots. So that's pretty cool too. But yeah, so you've got, like I said, you can check out his website. It's threatcadre.com. So y'all can go on there and check that out. And he is Threat Cadre on YouTube and Instagram, I believe. I don't do Instagram anymore, but you're Threat Cadre on Instagram.
Majority of I stay on Instagram a lot. So if you want to reach out to me, call me or email me or hit me up on the gram, because I push a lot of product for Staccato and for drills. Try to give I had a instructor tell me I was giving away too much information on drills and training for free. And the way I looked at it, I've got 25 plus years of training and operational that taxpayers paid for. So I'm going to give it back a little bit.
There you go. Hey, there you go. Saving that tax money. And one of the drills he does that I really like, and I wasn't familiar with it, is the Mark Twain drill. You want to tell them about that real quick?
No, it's EDC drill. You start at probably about 7 yards or whatever you're comfortable with. And normally if you have a training partner, or you can do it yourself with a shot timer, I'll have them pick up a book. I'll have them read every third word, tell me what it is. I already know what it is. And at that time, the buzzer goes off. So you're going to have to drop your book, assess the target, and then draw from concealment and engage. Yeah. So it keeps you from gaming the system. I see all these guys, they're training, but they're already pre-staged and they're ready to go after it. But this right here, it allows you can't game the system at that point.
Yeah, so he's sitting there reading a book and all of a sudden, drops it and boom, and it's like, I don't know how many you shoot. How many is that?
Probably 2 to 3. I don't do ones. I like to do 2s and 3s to get used to it.
And he's using his target, and then he lifts it up, and you can see the heart where he's just tapped the hell out of that heart. But Yeah, and I think this was really fun. And if y'all have any questions after, I can try to give answers, or I can definitely get with Greg and say, hey, they got this particular question and get you the correct answer. But I will leave all of his links after the chat. I'll go in there and type them in there. They will be in the comments, so please check it out. But I really want to thank Greg for being on, and of course, thank all the subscribers for coming on and being a part of this. That's really a great deal. But anything in closing that you want to say?
No, guys, like I said, it's been a long time coming with this CS. I'm actually I don't get excited a lot. Last time I got excited about a weapon was the C2, and then this one's actually got me excited. And I carry it. I EDC it. I trust it for my life. I trust it to protect my family. So I mean, I'm excited for you guys to get out and shoot it. And if you guys are in the DFW area, hit me up. I've always got mine on me, so if we may set something up, and if you haven't run it in Georgetown this past weekend, I have no issue to swing by and let you run it.
Yeah, because we were up there yesterday, and I was shooting it and did a lot, and then we invited people in from the trainers there, and even regular patrons to come in and shoot it and stuff. So it was a lot of fun, and everybody seemed to really enjoy it. Chris was shooting it out to 50 yards. Chandler shot it at I don't know 7-10 yards, and I mean, everybody that shot it was really impressed with it. So a couple of comments where I'm saving my money now. I know what I'm going to buy. So, and like I said, I think it's going to be a really big success because it gives you a choice. If it's a little too thick on the C2 or you want something thinner, this is definitely going to be your option with good capacity.
One thing that I actually like about it, with the grip, it's actually, I believe, slightly slimmer than my Glock 19s, but it allows me to use my thumb to, I don't have to loosen up my master grip to actually activate my mag release. And that's always been my pet peeve because I use my support thumb to let the slide go forward. And a lot of times I actually use my support thumb to drop my magazine. So it allows me to actually have better access to everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think any options are great. Staccato, like you said, the C2 came out, and I was like, okay, what's next? And of course, I love my C2, I love my P, but I was like, what's next? There's got to be something coming. And people had a lot of predictions and were wanting a lot of different things, like a mini XC. And this is my opinion. I hope they come out with this gun in a threaded version where Greg could put a comp on it or something like that, and then you could have a mini XC. I think that would be a cool option. Don't know if they're going to. I'm just throwing it out there. I have no idea. So don't say, hey, Big Johnson said this, because I don't say nothing. I'm just saying I think that would be a really cool option. But I appreciate all of y'all coming on. Sorry we didn't answer a ton of questions. This is just I wanted to allow Greg to be on and talk about his company and talk about the new gun coming. And I do appreciate Greg so much for doing the chat and also for letting me shoot his CS. I really did enjoy it. Of course, I enjoy Greg. He's a super great guy, hell of a shooter, and gives some really good information. So, but if y'all have any questions afterwards, please leave them. But y'all have a great night. Greg's going to stay on. I'm going to talk to him for a second, but I appreciate y'all so much. Y'all have a great night. And thank you, Greg.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Take care.